Let's begin in Belgium, where leaders of the EU and the African Union, as well as of their respective member states, are meeting for the 6th European Union-African Union Summit in Brussels. The summit presents a unique opportunity to lay the foundations for a renewed and deeper AU-EU partnership with the highest political involvement and based on trust and a clear understanding of mutual interest. Leaders are expected to discuss how both continents can build greater prosperity. African Affairs analyst Achike Chude joins me now for more on this. Good to have you join us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
So let's talk more about this. One of the best news we have, or one of the biggest news rather, we have received from this summit is the fact that the WHO has now said that Africa will be enabled to produce the mRNA vaccines for COVID-19. And that's one of the biggest stories coming out from that summit. But let's talk about the focus on Africa in recent times. We've seen China, Russia, Turkey, even Saudi Arabia trying to increase its influence in Africa. What do you make of this? How does
yes, well, maybe just briefly about with the COVID, vaccines. I think it's a victory for Africa because it was one of the things that was going to be discussed at that summit. Obviously, the Director General of the WHO is from Africa and has shown a very great passion about what has been going on with regards to the COVID situation in Africa. And so that's a very good one for him and then for the rest of the continent. Then with regards to the discussion actually with European leaders, the reality is that there is a competition going on in the world, and Africa is the centerpiece of that competitive engagement between some of the great powers in the world. You have China, you have Europe. Unfortunately, Europe used to be much more involved with Africa, in years past. But over time, I think they considered Africa no longer as significant as the continent has been. Of course, you know that a lot of people would argue that Europe was built on the back of the exploitation of Africa's, human and mineral resources. But Europe seemed to have abandoned Africa for quite some time. And then the Chinese smartly replaced the Europeans and the Americans in Africa. And for a very long time now has been thriving, has been doing well with all kinds of investment in the African continent. And so that is what Europe is actually trying to combat. Macron is hoping that this summit will have some economic and financial successes between both continents. And the European allers said that, look, this is not going to be business as usual. And so what I think Europe is trying to do is to commit about 150 billion euros through public and private financing across Africa in the next 7 years. And what they are trying to do is to combat the Chinese belt, the Chinese economic investment in Africa, which has been actually dominating the economic space in the continent. So Europe wants to come back forcefully in Africa, and they realize that they need to have a lot of investments to have a chance. And what they are trying to tell the Africans is that, look, Africa ultimately Europe is the best partner, it's the best ever partner that you can have in Africa. Of course, you are making a snide reference to China. And then again, you just talked about the influence. The Russians, some is beginning to consider Africa as a place of geopolitical interest. Of course, we know, how their involvement in places like Mali, where there's some mercenary groups linked to the Kremlin, to the Russian state, are operating in Mali, and there's some other parts of the West African sub-region, and this has become a serious problem for Africa.
Mr. Achike, but you have highlighted all of these relations with different countries quite well, but while Africa is at the center of geopolitics, what people really wonder about is the nomenclature of these relations. Many people say that it is focused more on aid than it is on trade. But the European Union is now saying that, look, this relations with Africa is not a relations of, the colonial master and the colonized. It is more of, a relationship of a partnership of equals. But if it's going to be a partnership of equals, what do you think that it should happen for it to make it a partnership of equals?
Well, it's not. I think that is a diplomatic language. It's not exactly going to be a partnership of equals. So of course, it depends on how Africa is able to respond to the overtures by the Europeans. And I think that what puts Africa in good state to have good outcomes from the engagement with the Europeans is the fact that there's a competition going on. And so when there is a competition going on, you become the beautiful bride. I mean, because the competition is about the resources of Africa. So Africa is in a very advantageous position. It depends on how the quality of engagement that Africa is going to have with this, with the European continent and other continents. So they can always use one as a make weight in their negotiations with the other partners. And I think that is the key thing. So from that perspective, if they're able to get their act right, then we could say, yes, there could be some equality, during the negotiating process. But do not forget again that, of course, they will need African resources, they will need African markets, while Africa would obviously need the monies that come from the Europeans. Africa has so much advantages. We have a viable market. The fact that Africa has not been sufficiently developed automatically implies that there's a lot of development that needs to go on in Africa. And so Africa needs the partners that can actually help Africa along the path of that development, but it must not be in the way and manner that it has gone in the past, where it would appear that most of the advantages, the economic advantages, benefit the outside, the foreign countries other than the African continent itself. So I think it is about how well we are able to engage in that negotiation and not give the impression that we are beggarly and that without them we're not going to survive. Obviously, we have other suitors, and so that plays well in our state.
All right, so we'll see. We know that one of the aims of this summit is to launch an Africa-Europe investment package. We will see what the priority areas will be. We're following closely. Thank you so much for talking to us, African Affairs Analyst Achike Chude.
Thank you.